ABC7 is the official home of the UTEP Miners, and we're committed to bringing you complete coverage of everything UTEP athletics. And this week, we turn our attention to UTEP volleyball. Joining me is the head coach for the Miners, Ben Wallis. Coach Wallis, thanks for taking the time to be here with us today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Appreciate you guys having us.
Well, Conference USA made the decision to push back the volleyball season to the spring, but you've actually played some scrimmages this season. Tell me how that's been going.
Yeah, it's actually a wild scenario with all of the changes in our conferences moving things to the spring. Initially, the plan was to play some competitive, almost spring-like scrimmages that you normally do in a given year in what they call our non-competitive season. And then, as most recently as last week, the NCAA came out and actually said that those scrimmages are going to count towards our record in the now spring, which normally is the fall, which all that's very confusing to everybody that it's non-volleyball related. So it sounds like our matches against Texas State are going to count on our schedule. So currently we're actually one on one on the year and have a win over a top 50 opponent in Texas State. So it's all kind of crazy and doesn't really sound like it makes a lot of sense, but all I know is that we have a great win over a good opponent, and our loss in 5 still looks like a good loss to the rest of the world because it's a good opponent that we almost got 2 wins off of. We turned right around less than 12 hours after we finished the last match and played them again and beat a good team on their home floor, one of which they hadn't lost at home in a number of years. And so it was a big victory for our program, and it just helped solidify a lot of the changes we made with our players skill-wise and also recruiting-wise.
Crazy season for you because you're playing like these games right now, but then you also have that spring season coming up. I guess my last question for you is just that gap in between from what you're doing now to when the conference begins in the spring. How do you handle that, and what are your goals for the team this season?
It's just an unprecedented time. You don't have the normal schedule. You don't have the normal amp up into you playing these competitive matches. So while we did, because of our season was moving right into what we were planning on playing, you now have a scenario where you're going to stop your season in October. So we're going to shut our season down October 10th, and we're going to let our players rest for the better part of a week, 2 weeks, where they don't do anything volleyball related at all. And then we're going to bring them back, and we're going to do some individuals for a long month of November. And then once again, they're going to go home at Thanksgiving, and they're going to be home at Thanksgiving for the rest of the winter, all the way until they come back in January. So it's a weird time. It's unprecedented. The NCAA started the first competitive match on January 22nd. So we really don't know what that looks like because we're never amping up a season in the winter time. That's usually basketball for the men and women. And so I'm gonna lean on Kevin and on Rodney on what their advice is there and try to figure out what's the best thing for our players. But we did right by our players getting them some matches in the fall here to be competitive, because not many other people and not many other programs in the country were allowed to because their administrations didn't think that it was right for them to do it or could do it financially or with the COVID restrictions, but also right by our players because they're allowed to compete, and I think they were really hungry for that.
Well, my thanks to Coach Wallis for coming in. Thank you very much, Coach, and best of luck this season.
You got it. Appreciate it. Cheers on this weekend.
Adrian and Coach Wallis, thanks very much.